Who let the help sit here? The billionaire's wife didn't whisper it. She spat it, her diamond bracelet flashing as her hand struck the woman's face. The entire ballroom froze. The slap came first, sharp, echoing through the chandeliers, and then her words followed like poison. You people never know your place. The ballroom froze. All eyes locked on the black woman in the gold gown, and the echo of the slap still hung in the air. Crystal glasses trembled. A violin note broke mid-song, and somewhere in the back, someone gasped, too afraid to even whisper what they'd just seen. At the center of the marble floor stood Mrs. Eleanor Vance, wife of billionaire real estate tycoon Gregory Vance, her diamond bracelet still glinting from the force of strike. Across from her, cheek reddened, expression steady, was Dr. Amara Holt. No one knew her name yet. They only saw what they wanted to see, a black woman in the wrong place at the wrong table. The chandeliers above dripped with gold light. Waiters in white gloves froze mid-service. Dozens of guests, politicians, CEOs, old money families, stared like predators scenting blood. The charity gala was supposed to be about empowering women across the globe. But now the air was poisoned. Eleanor Vance's voice sliced through the silence. Who let the help sit here? Her tone wasn't curious. It was disgusting. A few people shifted in their seats, uncomfortable, embarrassed. But no one spoke. Not one of them. Do you have any idea whose seat you're in? Eleanor continued, stepping closer. This table is reserved for board members and their spouses. You people always find a way to sneak in where you don't belong. She spat the last words like poison. Dr. Amara Holt didn't move. She simply blinked once, calm and silent. Her gold gown shimmered softly under the lights, elegant, regal, not loud. The kind of dress that didn't beg attention, but commanded it. Still, Eleanor wasn't done. She snatched Amara's champagne flute from the table and poured it onto the floor. Clean that up, or security will do it for you. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Isn't that too much?" Another voice hissed back, "That's the Van Cess." Eleanor smiled thinly, enjoying the spectacle. This is a charity event for women of influence, not community projects. Her friends laughed. Their laughter spread like wildfire, shallow, nervous, cruel. Near the stage, a teenage girl watched in shock. Lila, one of the scholarship students honored that night. Her scholarship had been funded by the very foundation hosting this event. And in her wide, tearful eyes, you could see the future being written, a memory she'd never forget, a powerful white woman humiliating someone who looked just like her. Amara didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't even raise her voice. Instead, she stood quietly, brushed her gown, and said, softly, clearly, "You should be careful what you assume, Mrs. Vance." The words were calm, but they cut deeper than any scream could. Eleanor laughed, sharp, mocking. "Assume? I know your type. You wait tables at these events and hope someone leaves a tip big enough to change your life. Don't play games with me." Amara's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, in pity. "Oh, Mrs. Vance," she murmured. "You really don't know who you're talking to, do you?" A murmur swept across the hall. A few people, the ones who actually read the guest list, began to realize something was off. Suddenly, a uniformed guard approached. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" Eleanor gestured at Amara with fury. "Yes, there is. Remove this woman immediately before I call my husband." The guard hesitated. He looked from Eleanor to Amara, and something in Amara's steady gaze made him pause. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "may I see your invitation?" Amara smiled, that quiet, devastating kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Of course." She reached in her clutch and pulled out a black envelope embossed with gold letters. The same kind only executive donors received. The guard's face went pale. He looked down at the name, Dr. Amara Holt, founder and chief executive, Holt Biomedical Trust. He froze. Then he stepped back. "My apologies, Dr. Holt." The crowd rippled with shock. Eleanor's laughter died instantly. "Excuse me," she whispered. A voice boomed from behind the crowd. "What's going on here?" Gregory Vance himself pushed through, tall, commanding, accustomed to obedience. A few reporters turned their cameras subtly in his direction. Eleanor rushed to him. "Greg, this woman, she crashed our table. She assaulted me when I asked her to leave." The room murmured in disbelief. Everyone saw what happened, but no one dared contradict the Van Cess. Gregory turned to Amara, cold and dismissive. "This event is by invitation only. You'll need to exit before I have you escorted out." Amara met his gaze, unshaken. "You should choose your words carefully, Mr. Vance." He frowned. "Are you threatening me?" "No," she said softly. "I'm warning you." Every camera lens in the room found her face now. Every whisper faded into the quiet hum of fear and curiosity. Eleanor crossed her arms. "Who exactly do you think you are?" Amara tilted her head slightly, the hint of a smile forming. "Someone whose name you might have seen, right above yours." Gregory blinked. "What do you mean?" Amara reached into her bag again, this time pulling out a folded set of documents. She laid them flat on the table, the golden light catching the ink. "Holt Biomedical Trust X Vance Industries. Research Grant Agreement, 3 years. Gregory's jaw tightened. He recognized the document immediately. He'd signed it himself. The silence became unbearable. Everyone could feel the shift, the power sliding from one side of the table to the other. Amara spoke evenly, every word measured, deliberate. "You've been receiving $120 million in research funds from my foundation for the past 2 years, Mr. Vance. Funds meant to support diversity programs and women-led innovation." She turned slightly, her voice cutting through the air. "But after tonight, I'll be reviewing those allocations." A collective gasp. Gregory's face was drained of color. Eleanor stepped back, stammering. "That's impossible. We've worked with the whole trust for years." Amara's gaze didn't waver. "No, Mrs. Vance. You've taken advantage of it for years." Now, the guest began whispering in earnest. Words like CEO, grant money, and Holt Biomedical rippled through the hall. A journalist whispered into his phone. "We've got a story. The Van Cess just humiliated their own benefactor." Cameras flashed. Phones discreetly recorded. The power couple who once owned the room now looked cornered, like actors in the wrong scene. Eleanor's voice trembled. "You can't just cancel that funding." Amara stepped closer, lowering her voice to a calm whisper only the microphones could catch. "You slapped a woman who built the very table you're sitting at. You insulted the foundation that funds your reputation. Tell me, Mrs. Vance, should I consider that a business decision or a personal one?" Eleanor opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Gregory swallowed hard, the weight of cameras on him. "Dr. Holt, please. There's clearly been a misunderstanding." Amara didn't blink. "Yes," she said quietly. "There has been. You mistook kindness for weakness." She gathered her documents and turned toward the stage. The host, trembling, rushed to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next speaker, Dr. Amara Holt." Eleanor froze. Gregory's eyes widened. As Amara walked toward the stage, calm, regal, every camera turned to follow her. Each step echoed with power, grace, and something colder than fury, control. She reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out across the glittering sea of faces. Many of them suddenly were unable to meet her eyes. Her voice was calm, measured, unapologetic. Tonight's theme is empowering women across the globe. But before we speak of empowerment, we must confront what disempowerment looks like. The crowd stirred. The Van Cess sat frozen, pale and silent. "It looks like silence," she continued. "It looks like watching injustice because it's inconvenient to challenge it. It looks like humiliation disguised as etiquette." Every word landed like thunder muffled under silk. "But most of all," she said softly, "it looks like this." She held up a single page, the same contract. And in that quiet moment, every camera flash lit her face like fire. "This document," Amara said, "carries one clause that determines the future of Vance Industries. A clause most of you in this room have never read, but should." She looked directly at Gregory, then at Eleanor. "I wasn't going to use it. Not tonight. But since I've been publicly invited to know my place." She laid the page flat on the podium. "Perhaps it's time you remember yours." Gasps. tension thick enough to choke on. Gregory tried to stand, but Amara's voice stopped him cold. "Sit down, Mr. Vance. You'll want to hear this." And as the lights dimmed and the audience leaned forward, her calm voice cut through the silence. "This clause gives me the right to terminate every joint venture under your name, effective immediately." The screen fades to black. The ballroom was silent. No one breathed. No one moved. Dr. Amara Holt stood beneath the chandeliers, poised, golden light glinting off the papers in her hand. And across from her, Gregory and Eleanor Vance sat frozen. "This clause," Amara said, voice calm and cold as glass, "allows the Holt Biomedical Trust to withdraw all funding, partnerships, and patent access from Vance Industries, effective immediately." A murmur erupted. Phones buzzed. The donors who once clinked glasses with the Vances now whispered like sharks circling blood. Eleanor rose from her seat, trembling. "You can't do this," she said, her voice cracking. "Do you have any idea what that will do to us?" Amara's eyes never wavered. "Yes," she said softly. "That's precisely why I'm doing it." Her tone didn't waver as she listed their options: compliance or collapse. Clause 47B, she read aloud, states that all Vance subsidiaries relying on Holt biomedical patents, data, or licensing will lose authorization within 72 hours of breach. She folded the paper neatly. Publicly humiliating your funding partner at a diversity gala is a breach. Gregory lunged to the microphone. "Dr. Holt, please, this isn't necessary. We can issue an apology. I'll have a press release out tonight." Amara shook her head slowly. "Apologies, fix words, Mr. Vance. But your actions have consequences." Her voice grew steadier. Each sentence was surgical, precise, final. "Effective tomorrow morning, every ongoing contract between the Holt Trust and Vance Industries will be suspended. Every research center you own using Holt technology will be audited. And every employee who has been dismissed or silenced for speaking out against bias will be reinstated. With compensation." A gasp rippled through the audience. Eleanor's face was drained of color. You're ruining us." Amara's expression softened, not cruel, but resolute. "No, Mrs. Vance. I'm freeing everyone you've built your empire on." All around them, the crowd's allegiance shifted. Guests who once worshipped the Vance name now inched away, pretending not to know them. A senator whispered to his aide, "Pull our funding from their committee." Immediately, another CEO texted his assistant, "Cancel the Vance partnership. Align with Holt instead." And just like that, decades of arrogance began to crumble in real time. A young reporter, standing near the bar, raised her hand. "Dr. Holt," she asked carefully, "would you like to make an official statement for the press?" Amara turned, serene. "Only this," she said. She faced the cameras. "Power is a responsibility, not a weapon. When you forget that, it will always be taken from you." The room erupted in applause, quiet at first, then growing, rising, unstoppable. People stood, guests, servers, even the band. And Eleanor? She sat frozen, tears forming but unshed. Her diamond bracelet caught the light, the same hand that had struck another woman now trembling in shame. After the gala, Amara stepped into the corridor. The air smelled of perfume, spilled champagne, and panic. Gregory followed, desperate. "Please, Dr. Holt, you don't understand. My company employs thousands. This would destroy livelihoods." She stopped, turned slowly, then used this as a chance to rebuild, with integrity this time. He swallowed. "If we lose your funding, the board will—" "You won't lose it," she interrupted. "You'll earn it back, if you're willing to change." Her voice softened. "But I'll no longer fund systems that silence people who look like me." Gregory stared at her, and for the first time, he had no power left to hide behind. Meanwhile, inside the ballroom, Eleanor sat alone. The lights dimmed, the laughter gone. Reporters swarmed outside, shouting her name, their cameras merciless. She tried to compose herself, but her reflection in the crystal vase beside her looked unfamiliar. The woman who'd once commanded rooms now looked like a frightened stranger. And when Lila, the scholarship student from earlier, timidly approached her, Eleanor couldn't meet her gaze. "Mrs. Vance," Lila said softly. "That woman you called to help, she funded my school. She's the reason I'm here tonight." Eleanor's breath caught. Lila continued. "You taught me something, though. You showed me what power looks like when it forgets kindness." Then the girl walked away. For the first time in her life, Eleanor Vance felt small. Within 48 hours, the story exploded. Headlines read, "Charity Gala Scandal. Billionaire couple lose major contracts after public humiliation. Holt Biomedical withdraws support, citing moral breach. Diversity doesn't end at the door. Dr. Amara Holt speaks truth to power. Stock prices of Vance Industries plummeted. Board members resigned. Government contracts were suspended pending review." And Amara? She never said another word publicly about it. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than any statement could. 6 months later, the same hands that struck her now built schools under her foundation's name. A newly built community center opened on the south side, the Eleanor Vance Institute for Equity and Leadership. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was small but powerful. No photographers, no flashing lights, just real people. And at the center of it, Eleanor herself stood, humbler, quieter. Her once perfect hair was tied simply, her jewelry modest. She turned as Amara approached, holding out a pair of scissors. "You didn't have to name it after me," Amara said softly. Eleanor smiled faintly. "I did, because I needed to remember." She took a shaky breath. "When you stripped us of everything, I thought you'd ruin my life. But really, you gave me a new one." Amara didn't respond. She simply nodded, calm, unreadable, then gestured for Eleanor to cut the ribbon. And as the crowd clapped, you could see it. The first genuine peace Eleanor had felt in years. Gregory, too, changed. After losing his position as CEO, he spent months rebuilding, not in boardrooms, but in classrooms. He began mentoring underprivileged students in business ethics programs. When asked why, he always said the same thing. "Because I learned what business without ethics becomes." Eventually, the whole trust quietly renewed one of his research grants. Under new leadership, stricter transparency, and one condition. He'd never forget how close arrogance came to erasing everything. And Dr. Amara Holt? She became something more than a name on a contract. Her story spread worldwide, not as gossip, but as inspiration. Universities studied her leadership style. Women across the globe quoted her speech at the gala. "Power is a responsibility, not a weapon." She was invited to the United Nations, where she spoke about ethical leadership and equity. But her favorite event remained the one at her community center, where Lila, now a first-year medical student, introduced her to the stage. Lila's voice shook as she said, "She didn't just open doors for us. She built the keys." The room erupted in applause. Amara simply smiled, graceful, untouchable. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks in heels across marble floors and speaks in calm sentences that echo for generations. In the end, the world didn't remember the slap. They remembered the silence that followed, the stillness where dignity stood unshaken. Because that night wasn't about race or class alone. It was about recognition. Recognizing that respect is not given by status. It's earned by how you treat people when you think no one's watching. The Vances learned that. Painfully, publicly, permanently. And Amara? She reminded the world of something timeless. Your response doesn't have to be loud to change the world. Sometimes quiet power makes the deepest noise. The camera pans over the new institute's courtyard. Children laugh. Students read under trees. A bronze plaque glints in the sunlight. It reads, "Built on the belief that dignity is not negotiable." Dr. Amara Holt. And as the wind carries the sound of their laughter, you realize this wasn't revenge. It was a restoration. A woman rose above humiliation and turned it into history. What would you have done in her place? Would you have shouted or stayed silent and let your power speak for itself? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the world doesn't need another hero. It just needs someone who refuses to bow.